Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining me. Today is a really reseller-focused webinar that's going to be covering a lot of the updates that we've implemented the last couple of months. A lot of them are very program specific. Some of them are going to have bigger impacts because they're integrated right into ACT, and we'll cover all of those. And I'll show you some of the online reference material that we've published, so no one has to, really take any notes. Okay, so our leadoff hitter is, and by the way, this is recorded for those that have just joined us, and I will be distributing the recording link to everyone that registered. Okay, so to start, our leadoff hitter is going to be tables for ACT. So let me just say that I did publish a blog here. Scroll down here, tables for ACT. And I'm not going to be covering the bug fixes really super specifically, but I will be going through the new feature changes. Okay, and I will also be covering some of the commercial changes at the bottom. Okay, I made a mention in ACT Nation the other day, but we'll be covering it again. So first thing, let's bring up ACT. Okay, first thing is tables for ACT is tables for ACT again. For those that are unfamiliar or even uninterested, the Tables for ACT brand was what we started with about 5-6 years ago. A very unhelpful CMO from ACT named Lori Coughlin gave us a lot of grief over the branding and basically forced us to change along with a lot of our products. Had I known she would be fired this quickly or as quickly as she was, then I probably wouldn't have gone through the branding changes. But here we are, advance forward, and a lot of our reference materials and marketing and even some of the back-end programming still reference tables for ACT. So we've gone back to that. Fairly low impact, but I wanted to make sure that people were aware of the branding changes. Okay, so here is a backup of my database, and what we're looking at is the subscription custom table where we keep track of all of our subscription accounts. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to tell you is that all of these changes that we'll be demonstrating today are about Windows. Okay, some of them in terms of the display, they will still apply, but we really made most of the changes for the Windows product. Okay, the first thing is what you're seeing here looks probably identical to what you've seen in the past, but we're not using OLEDB for the list display. And that has been traditionally used for a long time, but when we first launched it, it was a huge performance improvement over some of the other options. But as we got into working with Q sales, we migrated back to using SQL list displays. And what we found is that a lot of the issues that we were having immediately got fixed when we reverted back. So all of the list displays are now in SQL. We're no longer using OLEDB. And if that sounds familiar, we went through the same major change with Dash recently, okay? OLEDB is truly problematic. We had issues where if you put calculated fields in here, they would display as long alphanumeric characters. There were other issues with this, but all of them went away. One of the issues that really kind of frustrated me is that if you had an RDB and let's say you let it sit idle for like a day or so, often you'd go to the custom tables and there'd be no data. Okay, and that was because there was a security token that basically just expired, and the only way that you can reestablish it is restarting ACT. So you can imagine people's reaction when they would, go to click on a tab and there was no data. So clearly that was worth fixing, and by switching over to SQL, that issue got solved. Okay. So that was the big issue. Now, as all of you guys know, we circulated a survey in January and February trying to get everyone's opinion in the ACT community, specifically ACT consultants, looking for their feedback on what they would like to see with custom tables. You'd be surprised at the amount of feedback that came in around fonts. okay? Being able to change the labels, the data. So that was one of the things that we've done. So let me just show you here. Click on tables, click on manage custom tables, and we're gonna we're in the Act sub, and we're gonna click on design layouts. And then this comes up as the own layout, so we're gonna click on edit. Okay, now I'm not suggesting this is particularly sexy, but let's go to this particular area here, and let's go up to the top where we have appearance. Okay, we're going to expand it, and now we can see the font sizes, things like this. Now this is the okay, if I go to, let's say, the font, I can click on here, and I can change the font type, the font style, the font size, whichever. Okay, if I want to change the color, okay, let me say, go to something inspired by Vic, fuchsia, his favorite color. Okay, I can then close this and see that I've got this particular section here, the section headers as fuchsia now. Okay, if I want to go back to the property box, and this is kind of like a preview. Okay, now if I go back here, okay, I can make any of the changes I want. Now let's say that I want to go down to, okay, here's the caption options. Okay, if I go down here, okay, I can see here captions, hold on, appearance. Okay, under the captions, here is I've got the fonts. So now I'm gonna be getting into the actual field labels, okay? And I can make the changes for that. And then if I click down here, okay, I can go to, let's see, I think there's the different fonts, okay? But I mean, basically all the different sections that you can modify are here. So you can change the fonts, change the colors. Now let me give you, can you right align the fields to the, okay. Okay, so let's go to the, okay, you got underlined font. I believe there is an alignment here. Jill, I'm going to get back to you on that. There's just too much areas here for me to really get into, but I do want to stress that you're not going to see these options in anything other than the master database. Okay, so if you're not on an RDB, you're not going to see these options. So just be mindful of that if you're trying to make layout changes on a syncing database. Okay, but Jill, I think that if you go through here and you check, go through all the different options, I believe alignment is definitely one of them. Okay. Okay, so that is, how to change the for color. You can actually make changes to the text as well by going into the data section, and you can change the color, the size, anything you like. So that, believe it or not, was a fairly big feature improvement or feature request. So, happy to be able to provide that. The other one, let's go to accept. I'm going to go into the service. The other one that we had was being able to resize based on memo fields. So right now, what you're seeing is all of our service tickets, okay, all 57,000 of them, but they're displayed in the single line only. We had requests that we have the option to display it so that the memo fields here, for instance, had the option of you can actually see all the data. Okay, right now all you can do is stretch it. So what we did is we clicked on customize here, and now you can say automatically resize row heights to fit data of memo fields. Fairly self-explanatory. And now you can see them sized like that. Now, as you can well imagine, that isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea. So while we responded initially to this request, we immediately realized that, that's going to be ugly for some people. So what we did is we set it up so it's an option. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you briefly one of the options in terms of the report designer, but we're not really going to do a whole lot on it because we're going to be covering reporting differently. Okay, so now we can click on custom tables, reports, and report designer. Okay, and now we've got a full report designer. Now, when we came up with this, it very quickly became apparent that unless you're a DBA, this isn't going to be of interest. So we spent a lot of time building reporting around, what an end user can handle. Okay, and we took some of the lessons we learned from Dash as well as we rewrote Dash and built the same kind of information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to ActSub. Okay, now like Dash, the first thing you've got to do is filter the data. Okay, but you're not doing a query with that or an advanced query. You're actually going to query, filter the data right within custom tables. So that process is immediately easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to see only my active accounts. Okay, and I only want to see renewal dates. Now I can go, this year, next year, but I want to be a little bit more specific. And I'm going to say, show me August, because we've already got a number of our renewal billings out. And I'll go right up to July. Okay. Now I'm going to click on close. And now in those two simple steps, I've got the filter I want. I've got the data of all of our renewals from August through to next July. So what do I want to do? I want to see that presented to me so I can understand my renewals on a month-by-month basis over the course of the next year, because this is a lot of data. It's got 1,622 rows. I want to be able to see what that means to me on a month-to-month basis marked over the whole year. So I'm going to click on charts. Okay, and this is where you'll quickly see why I didn't want to spend a lot of time in the report designer, because we have built this to be accessible to anyone. So I'm going to select the KPI option. We're going to click on next. Now, obviously, anytime we're going to have the option to build reports, we want to have people be able to save them and reuse them. In this case, we're going to create a new report, but if you clicked on open, okay, and you went next, it's going to open up to a folder within your My Documents. The reason that it isn't within the database, the supplemental folders for the database, is because they won't sync. Unless they are a recognized file extension, they're not going to save, and we could not get that added to the Act whitelist of files like we've got with some of our merge files. Okay, so right now, all of these are being saved to a subfolder within the My Documents. And as we get that whitelisted over the course of the next couple of months, then you'll see that we can actually save them into the reports folder, and then they will sync for others to use. Okay, so new. So now I've got the option, again, very similar to Dash. I've got simple or complex. Well, since this is a crosstab report with data down one side and going across, I'm going to need complex. Now, I want to be able to show what kind of data I'm looking for. So mine is going to be software version type. Okay, so I want to be able to see all my renewals going, broken down on a month-by-month basis, but also by a product-by-product basis. So I've broken this down here, and now I'm going to say I want to see it organized column-wise by renewals. Okay, so what I'm going to say is I'm going to show a count, sum, and now I'm going to summarize by, let's just say, the number of licenses. Okay, so I want to see the number of licenses that are renewing each and every single month. Now I'm going to click on next, and boom. So now I can see each and every single month, I've got this broken down. I can save it, I can email it, I can export it as CSV, Excel, PDF. If I email it, it will go out as, believe, yeah, I haven't set up my SMTP settings on this, okay? But I will, because I just did a reinstall. But you can just immediately email it out. So now let's say that you come across, you've gone through this, and it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't the result I was looking for. But you can also just the kind of process what we're looking at here. So here's all the products. We're seeing APC Sync, APC Web, Basic, Cloud, all broken down. And then we're seeing totals by month and totals by products across here. So this is pretty much exactly what I was looking for, but let's say it wasn't. Let's say that I didn't get the data right. I selected the wrong column. I can now go back and I can make changes here. Let's say that, you know, I wanted to see it by total price, okay? Now I can click on here and I can see the numbers by price, okay? If I go back here, I can say I want to see it simple, and, you know, let's go here. Okay, now it's showing me the aggregate of all my active subscriptions over the course of the next year based on, you know, a simple KPI. So it's very, very easy to kind of go back and forth and, you know, make this however you see fit. But the whole workflow that we're used to with Dash, where we do the filter, we select the graph type, and then we can email it out, okay, is preserved in this. And we made it so that literally anyone can do this. So let's click on cancel and let's go to a different table. Okay, I see I've got a couple of questions here. Okay, thank you. We'll always stop to recognize that I'm cool. Okay, so now let's go to our service table. And what I want to do is I want to see the breakdown of all the tickets from last year per service rep. Okay, now it's not going to be quite as clean as we would hope because there's going to be a bunch of tickets with multiple people on it, but let's just see what we get. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to review the incident date, and this is where I can use just last year. Okay, pretty straightforward. I've done my filter. So now I'm going to click on chart, and I'm going to say graph, and I'm going to say, let's do a pie chart. Okay, and the category is, let's do duration. So I want to actually check by the number of hours. Okay, and I'm going to say sum and incident duration. I can select where the legend is, and let's see what we get. Okay, so now I immediately get a breakdown of all of the different hour totals. Okay, I just realized that I made a mistake here because I did this by date. Okay, so I'm going to do graph. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say ticket owner. Okay, and we'll do some incident duration. Okay, that makes a bit more sense. So now I can see, you know, Jason did 708, Michael did 745, Dia did 688, Anthony did 867, so on and so forth. So I'm able, and all of these little slivers here are tickets that had combined users. But I'm able to very, very quickly see what people's service durations were, okay, based on a table that if we close it, okay, we're looking at 10,000 custom table entries, okay? So being able to extract that data that quickly is really, really helpful, okay? So this was a big feature that we focused on with custom tables, and I would say the biggest, okay, in that we already have Dash for all of the different tables, but we wanted something specifically for custom tables where people are motivated to put more and more data in it, whether it is contracts, mortgages, investments, things like that. All of that data is great, but if you can't report on it very easily, specifically even within the product, then quite honestly, it becomes less useful. So this was a major focus for us through the late winter and early spring. So the objective was to make it super simple, really easy to grab the data that you're looking for so that anyone can use it, and then have easy distribution methods through the emailings and savings and things like that. Okay, let me just see, I don't see any questions, so that is cool. Now, the tables for ACT, I do want to stress, I did post this in ACT Nation, and I'm just going to emphasize it again right here, tables for ACT. What we did is 2 years ago, we basically divided our tables for ACT product into one for desktop, which we made a perpetual license, and that had no publishing capability, similar to Designer, and then one for web, which was licensed per user. So the desktop was licensed per activation and perpetual, and then the tables for ACT, the regular tables for ACT product was a subscription license per user. So what was the benefit of that? So the regular tables for ACT, you can have one license for one user, and if they had a desktop and a laptop computer, and both of them had RDBs, or one was an RDB, one was the master, they would only need one license, okay, because it was licensed per user. Very similar to ACT. However, there was a lot of people that didn't have publishing needs, okay, didn't need to publish it on the web, but they needed to use tables on multiple databases. Obviously, the user method wasn't supporting of that. So what we did is we created the desktop version so that people that wanted tables on multiple versions can use it that way. And what we did is we made that version perpetual, thinking that that would be something that would require fewer updates because we weren't accounting for browser changes, things like that. That was our thinking. And for 2 years, it was fine. The problem was, and I'm not going to bore you with the technical licensing details, but when we came around to releasing this major new update, the feature of which I just went through, we would have had to have then gone to a second code base to make tables for ACT Desktop 2.0, okay? We've got a lot of products. We've got over 100 products. So we're trying to avoid 2 code bases wherever we can. So basically what we did at that point is we said, we're gonna go back to both being subscription, $79.95, and the previous production version of tables for ACT Desktop that doesn't include any of the changes, OLEDB, no reporting. We're going to allow people to continue to buy for $149.95 for the rest of the year. And then after that, well, for most of the year. And then after that, we're going to take it off the market, and we're basically going to fulfill orders by request only for people with existing licensing, okay, so that they can top up or add users. But we're going to take it off the website. So, understand this legacy version, which we've rebranded Legacy, is going to be deprecated. And we're going to go forward with the Tables for ACT and Tables for ACT Desktop, both as subscription products. I hope that wasn't too boring of an explanation, but it was really important based on our eagerness to avoid the 2 code bases and the limits of the licensing software. Now, as you're going to discover towards the end of this presentation, we are going to be going forward with Designer as our main perpetual license custom table product, but I'm going to get more into that later, okay? Any questions on custom tables before we move on? See any? Okay, that's great. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is Linktivity. So Linktivity, this is the inside homepage This has just been updated in the last hour. So if this looks unfamiliar to you, it should be because we've just updated it. So you'll see this new homepage with all these buttons and the learn features, and we've got a what's new section. This what's new section right now is hard coded. Honestly, I just wanted to get this out so you guys can see it for today, but this will be more of a timeline showing real updates, okay? So this provides a much more familiar homepage for mobile users and for desktop users. And obviously it's got the what's new section. The other major change, there's actually a couple of major changes. You'll notice that when, if you haven't set up an account over the last few weeks, we've created a new workspace model. And what that means is every single person, when they log in and create a new trial, they have a individual user ID and they have a workspace. So if I was to sign in, I would be, say, Ken Q at Keystroke. Okay, Keystroke would be my workspace, and then Ken Q would be my personal ID. Now, if I wanted other people to be part of my workspace, then I can simply go down to my workspace, and click here and send out invites, okay? And then they would accept them and they would become part of my team, okay? The advantage of that is, obviously, I've got much easier license management because I can do it all in one place. I can assign people administrative privileges all in one place as well. But what we wanted to avoid, because quite honestly, we've been working on this for years, and some of the evolutions of the product were not in our original planning, specifically the standard and the team editions. So the way it initially evolved is that if you set up a team, after you set up the individual account, it often required you to do things like, set up 2 API settings and things like that. Really not a great customer experience. So we spent a fair bit of time simplifying that and creating migration tools. The other thing is, if you had a mix of individual or standard products with team products, you would often, toggle from one product to another, and you might be reminded that, oh, this isn't, you don't have a standard license because you have got a team license, or vice versa. So this simplifies all that process. It simplifies the original onboarding, account creation. It gets rid of all the duplicate settings, and it's just much simpler for people to understand when they get started. Let me just see, I've got a question here. Okay, if a client is at cloud with desktop sync, how do custom tables for Act with fonts, as you mentioned, cannot be done? Okay, so don't ever sell tables for Act to people with desktop sync, even if you've already got the custom tables built into the database, because you're not going to have the ability ever again to make any schema changes, because you will need to be able to make the schema changes on the hosted server. So, in that case, always go with the Act tables, even though they're ours, and we've submitted all these changes to that. So you won't see the changes on the web, but your customers will see all of the changes that I showed you today on their computers with the desktop sync. Okay. So just be mindful of that. I've had some people ask me, well, the tables for Act cost so much less, like 50% less than or more specifically, the Act costs 50% more. The reason for that is their licensing has the best of both. Ours is per user, okay, and per activation, and they actually have both. So you can have a per user, and you can have multiple databases, which ours is a choice of one or the other. So that's why it's 50% more. So please, anyone with desktop APC, definitely stick with their products. Okay, thanks for reminding me of that. Okay, so getting back to the linktivity changes. We talked about the workspace. What we're also going to be doing, okay, clicking on here, going back to home, is we've got the what's new, but we're also going to have a little notification system so that when there are alerts, they will pop up here when you log in. And we're going to have an archive of all those messages that people can reference. So if you missed a message or you hadn't logged in a little bit, then you can go back and check all the updates. So expect that sometime in the next week. And people will be alerted. We've got one major roadmap item that's going to be implemented in the next week that's going to involve schema implications for link to quotes users. So that's why we're getting this out of the way first, so people can be advised of what's required. And we're going to do that notification a week in advance. Okay, so now let's go to link to forms. I am really excited about this change, and I'm just going to show you here. If you want to learn a little bit about that, you can go here, scroll down, and you're going to see the blog on link to forms. Now, what I do is I cover all the use cases for these new features, but basically it's link to forms now supports digital signatures. Okay, so let's take a look at what that looks like. So I'm going to bring our careers page up. Okay, and as you can see, it's just a regular careers page. We've got, file uploads. It's much longer than a normal page because people are applying for a job, so we can, be a little bit more demanding in terms of the information they provide. But I now want them to actually sign to the accuracy of this information. So what I can do is I can click on here and I can go over to questions. Now I've already prepared these fields. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable them here. Okay, but let me just show you what they look like. So under the type, it's going to be signature. Label, signed to the accuracy of this data that you submitted. Okay, and then is it going to take one column? Is it going to take two? But it's required. And now I'm going to put in some additional little text, just kind of explaining why I'm asking for that. Okay, and let's see how that appears. Okay, so now, obviously I just put in very important, but what I would do is I would put in some extra text here, and that's one of the new features I'll be showing. But let's say that I've got this form now and people have to sign it. So I'm going to click on here, and I've got two options. One, I could just do a drawn signature, or two, I can click on here and just type in Ken Quigley. Okay, now when I click on apply, okay, it says please tick the checkbox. Oh, damn, what is that? By selecting this checkbox, I agree that the signature and initials will be electronic representations of my signature, blah, blah, blah. Exactly the kind of things that you would expect. So now people are signing to this effect, okay? And it's in this document, okay? Now, I have to complete the rest of this, most specifically the email, because what's going to happen is that when I go to complete this, let's just say Ken Quigley, CA, put in, okay, and okay, this is a drop down. No, actually it isn't. Okay, and now I'm going to confirm that I've done this. Now I'm going to click on submit. Okay, now what happens is I get emailed a code. Only I get emailed a code. If I'm the form publisher, I have no idea what that code is. Okay, so now I see it is 2641 because got that. It indicates right. Okay, and now let's see. Is there anything? Okay, good fit for a keystroke. Okay, that's Okay, and what's the other field? Best way to reach you, phone. Okay. Okay, it's got to send it to me again because I didn't have the required fields in. Okay, and let me see if I've never done this before. Let me see if the old code works. 2641. Nope. I need to get a new one. So, okay, just wait for that. Now, when I get this and I click on OK, it's going to seal the document, and it's going to save it as a PDF to my record. Okay, I've got the code now. 3192, which is accurate. Okay, a moment. Now, as it does this, it literally seals it, so it can't be done again. What is this? Okay. Okay, form submitted successfully. So now I'm going to be sent an email with that signed contract. Okay, and I can also click on here to download the signed contract. Okay, and here it is, looking exactly like a form. Okay, you see it's sealed. Okay, it looks exactly like a contract, and both myself and the person filling it out will get it. So think about the use cases. If you are a lawyer, if you are an accountant, if you are just a simple business owner that needs people to sign waivers, suddenly you've got all these different use cases for why you want people to be able to digitally sign. Okay, you don't need DocuSign, you don't need anything. This is part of the program and is available by default right out of the gate. Okay, right out of the box. So, okay. So now that was a major feature that we added. It gets written right to the history. That PDF gets written right to the history of that contact, and now you've got a signed contract. So if you've got people, customers that need to lend out equipment, that they need to, like I said, lawyers, accountants that need people to sign to the accuracy of their data, or anything from a waiver standpoint, now they've got the ability to create a form online, have people sign it, and have it written right to their file. So it really simplifies a lot of the processes. And as far as I'm aware, this is the only online web form that works with ACT that provides this. Okay, so we're pretty excited about that. In terms of the, let me just go here. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and I'm going to disable this. But what you've got now is the ability, we'll just go into preview, where we can put in text throughout this document. Right now, this form only includes little section headers and field labels. Now with this little section here, okay, which is called the text display section, we can actually add important maybe disclaimers, whatever, throughout the layout of your document. So if you've got, a section header here that, has disclaimer information you want to put in, now you can do it. The other thing that we've added is a lot of the times the forms, like here, are iframes. They're built right into the page, and you can wrap the disclaimer information around it. But if you're distributing it as a link, that kind of option isn't available. So we had to build in the small print feature right into the form itself. So you'll see here, we created a new footer information where people can put in their, any disclaimers, terms and conditions, refund policies, things like that. And while we're waiting for that, we can go over here, and now you can see it in small text, and you can see my privacy policy, terms and conditions, refund policies. And that is useful when you're just looking at the page like this, when you're sending out links, okay? And that information will be surfaced here under the footer text, okay? Now, as I was telling you, I've got this here, and I've now got the contract here on down. You can see that it's been digitally signed, time and date stamped, everything. And I've got this now in my act, okay? So we hope that you guys can see as many use cases for this as we do. We're pretty excited about this feature. The last one actually came from a customer, and we found really, really useful. If you go to our website and you go to any of the pages, so let's say we go to Opt-in Manager, for instance, okay? We don't want to create individual forms for every single product. We've got a lot of them. I mean, you go here, click here, you've got this, all of these, here, here. Can you imagine creating an individual form for every one of them? The problem is, though, if you create a common form and people submit it, you're not always going to know what product they're talking about. They're going to say, you know, what's the price of this? And they're going to fill out this information. You're thinking, first reaction you've got is, what product are you talking about? Now, you can create a drop down that includes every single one and update it and so on and so forth. Or you can do what we did, and we created a referral source field. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So what you can do is you can actually say, show me the page, the full link that, you know, is used here, okay, that this form is on. So what I've done is, under questions, I've added a internal variable here. So I just click on here and I selected internal variable, okay, and then I put in page source and I put in the value is either referral URL, IP address, or referral host name, okay? I wanna see the referral URL because I wanna see what page it's on. So let me just show you what that will look like. Okay, so now here's one that I completed earlier from Oscar Meyer, Oscar at Keystroke. Here's the address, and here's the page source. So I can quickly look at this and, they're asking about quick tasks. Now, if I've got like 100 products, or in one of our customers' cases, he had a database, an online database of jobs available. So a customer would drill down, and then once they found the job that they were looking for, they would complete the form. Well, just like us, he didn't want to create a form for every single job available, especially with the way they rotate. So we created this so that when they click on submit, he's going to know precisely what page they click this on, and that page URL will indicate what the database result is, and by extension, what the job was. Okay, so I know that may just seem like it's a, you know, a super geeky feature and kind of a limited use case, but I think you'll discover that this is something that allows you to repurpose forms over and over and over again, while still providing you that trail of breadcrumbs so you can identify the source. Any questions? Okay, I'm getting an easy break here. Okay, so let's jump over to link to quotes. Now, link to quotes, as you guys all know, this is our crown jewel. This is what we've invested probably more money in this than all the other programs combined. Okay, so I'm going to show you one of the new features that we've implemented that was a really consistent request from our customers, and that's when you hire new sales reps, you want to be able to put them on training wheels so that they can create quotes, but not be able to send them. Okay, so I'm going to click on here. I'm going to click on settings. Okay, and you're going to see a new feature called review. So admin approval here. So hold on. Anyone that's seen a demo with me before using Linktivity is aware that I complain about my internet on a pretty regular basis. So let's click on review process. Okay, now you can see here, these are all the users that I've got with link to quotes. And I've put here, not required, except Jason Murphy has just joined our sales team. And not that I don't think he can quote, but he's an American and he's often quoting into Canada, and there's foreign exchange and there's, you know, province to province sales tax. So what I've done is I've made it so that he has to get approval before he can send out a quote. Okay, so I'm just going to click on close that. And now I'm going to show you. This is a quote that he has saved and immediately was emailed to me for approval. So I'm the admin. So it says a salesperson has submitted a quote, such and such, okay, and this was to Vicron, okay, admin pack for admin approval, okay. I click on the link. It immediately takes me into the quote. Have I complained about my internet yet? Okay, so now I can quickly go through there. Okay, I can see Vic is a Canadian, so he's being quoted in CAD, so all that's correct. I'm going to see here. Okay, now I immediately see two mistakes. One, he hasn't charged HST, our sales tax, and two, he hasn't applied a foreign exchange fee. So I'm going to go here, click on upcharge, because we need to apply Canadians, and we'll say, okay, I think it's gone down to 35%. Discount, Vic's work hard. Let's give him an extra 5 points. Okay. Now I got to make sure that the sales tax is applied to both. Now that is good. So take a look. I can now click on save and approve. Now the button says save and send. So Jason has just gotten a notification that he can save it, he can send it. I've clicked on close and it's ready to go. So now that's building in that kind of training wheels or guardrails. So people are more comfortable hiring new sales reps and providing them those kind of guardrails so that they don't make any kind of costly mistakes. Okay. Now, let me show you a, let's just go through here. Okay, so I'm going to go through, we'll pick a quote. Okay, here's one I just created for scoping. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I've just added this simple scoping, but what I want to do is I want to add Act Premium Cloud as an option. Okay, but I don't want to just add it as Act Premium Cloud. I want to include Act Premium Cloud with support as a bundle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on Add Item, and I'm going to say Product Bundle, and I'm going to say APC with support. And now within that, I'm going to click on the plus sign. And I'm going to click here, and I'll just type in Act Premium Cloud. And here is web only. So I'm going to select this. And now I want to add support. So I'm just going to look it up a different way. I'm just going to type in orange, and I'm going to say web only. Okay. So now if I click on save, I've got this as a bundle. Let's do a quick preview. Okay. And this guy sees a bundle of 420 and he sees quantity of 1. However, let's take a look here and let's see what options we can make. So this guy has been a little dodgy. I don't know, not dodgy, it's not fair, but let's say he hasn't indicated how many seats he actually wants. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here and I'm going to say allow quantity to be edited. Click on apply. Okay. And now I'm going to click here, refresh. And now the quantity field is editable. And now take a look at what happens. It's multiplying by the combined total. So it's now increasing the bundle, okay? So that here was the problem that we had. It's great if we give people the ability to bundle or the ability to change quantities. But what happens if someone says, well, I want 5 Act Premium Clouds, but I'm the only one that's going to call in for support. So I only want 1 Orange Care. Okay, well, no, that's not how it works. So We want to do it so that they go up or down together and people see them as a unit price. Okay, now let's take a look at what we don't see. We don't see individual line price items, okay, in terms of quantity or extended price on any of them. So what that allows you to do is if you're creating bundles that, let's say there's one of these or two of these that go into a complete package, they're not going to see the quantities or the extended price. They're just going to see what the total bundle is, and they can increase or decrease it as needed. So that really helps people quite a bit, because if you do a lot of quoting like us, the biggest time waster is the back and forth. Oh, I've just talked to my team, we only need 3 now, or never mind, Sally wants to be on it again, can you increase it to 5? Back and forth. They can do all of this. They can accept the quote, and then immediately after they accept it, they can pay for it. Okay, so that really, really simplifies the process, and we wake up most mornings and we'll have an accepted quote there and the money already in our account. Okay, and the reason is that people can, customize the quote to suit their purposes. Now, I'm sure one of you guys are thinking, okay, but what if they actually don't want support? No problem. You can actually deselect a product within a bundle. Each one of these options are configurable. People can't just deselect anything they want. You can go in here and say, make this optional, but if I don't, okay, now I click on save. Okay, and they can't deselect it. Okay, so you've got all kinds of options where you can present bundles, but if there are some optional pieces within it, you've got the ability to for people to deselect. Okay, the point is you want people to be able to make all the changes to a quote they can without mucking up the pricing formulas, like, one orange cure per unit, and be able to adjust it to their needs, accept it, pay for it with minimal interaction. Okay, so we've got the bundling, we've got the quantity adjustments. Now, during all of this process, what you may find is that people are giving you information in terms of, these are the add-ons I've got, and such and such is going to be the administrator. So what you can do, and this is strictly internal facing, is you can click on log and you can say add entry and say Bronnie is the admin for this account. They have 5 designer licenses that will need upgrading. Okay, so now I click on submit entry and I've got this recorded. Now, if you're thinking, well, that's great, but I've got to go into Linktivity to see it, no. Each one of these log entries are being written directly to the notes section of the opportunity that this quote created. What is the value of that? Not only are you able to record the ephemera that salespeople learn in engaging with the prospects through the whole pre-sales process, but you are writing to the opportunity. So if you're a company like ours, where you'll have some people selling and other people fulfilling. So when, let's say Shannon closes a deal, it will be immediately turned over to the support department. Well, the support department now knows, based on this particular quote, that all of the fulfillment information or project information should be found under the notes section of the opportunity. Okay, customer doesn't see it, but you'll internally see it, and everyone that has access to ACT will also see it. And if you're not familiar with this, this is where you can see all of the information relating to this quote. Okay, so got this. Okay, so now, because I don't want to confuse poor Gus completely, I'm going to remove this, save and close. Okay, now the last piece that we're going to be changing in link to quotes is, remember I mentioned there's going to be a notification system. That's going to be announcing that there's going to be 2 new additional fields. I'm going to go here, go to field mapping, And there's going to be two new fields here, one called internal link and the other one called external link. The internal link will be the edit link. So that, remember you saw that email that I got from the system regarding Jason's quote. It will be an edit link, so they're right within the opportunity. Okay, without even Linktivity open, I can click on a link, the edit link of a quote, and it will take me right into Linktivity, into the edit mode of that quote. Okay, the second field will be the external link, which is the customer facing link that will also be written right in there. So you can work from, from the web, either within Linktivity or within the within your web database from the pipeline, and you're going to have those quote links available inside the opportunity. Okay, so we expect to implement that in the next week. As I said, we're implementing the early notification system. That's going to be implemented either tomorrow or Monday. People are going to get notifications of that. Because this is going to represent schema changes, we wanted people to have a week to kind of make these changes themselves, because once they're required, people won't be able to make quotes without providing the additional mapping for those fields. Okay, so we're trying to create as much early warning as possible for this and subsequent changes. Okay, I got about 5 minutes left, so let's talk about what we've got coming. Okay, Designer. Some of you guys have seen me talk about this on Act Nation. One of the things that we had a problem with Designer back in the day when we used to use it is that once we started adding in a ton of data, like you saw 57,000 support tickets, things like that, Designer would really kind of groan under the weight of that much data. There were memory leaks, ran into performance issues, crashes, things like that. We have addressed all of those. Okay, this has been a pretty extensive project, and now Designer is actually working extremely fast. We had a case where with the service table, just sorting by the column headers would sometimes take upwards of an hour with 57,000 records. Now with these new changes, it's 2 to 3 seconds. It's really that dramatic of a difference. So when I say that, we got major speed and memory management improvements, this has allowed us to adopt the policy with Tables for Act to say, this is the product we're moving forward with as our only perpetual license custom tables product. So look forward to that. If you're at all interested in being a beta tester, we're going to release this in the next couple of weeks. It'll be released in May. Please email me and we'll get you out an NFR that you can trial. The next one, and this is going to be a big project. Most of you guys are familiar with Notifier. Okay, we're going to build Notifier API. This is about a 2-month project, but it will allow people that are using APC with web, okay, or don't have access to a desktop client to be able to perform a lot of the automation functions available within Notifier, but have an API connection to the data. So you can send out notifications based on custom tables, based on birth dates, based on whatever. And this, we think, will add a significant, much needed workflow tool for Act Premium Cloud. So look forward to that. Handheld contact. Okay, guys, this was a huge undertaking that probably is going to be greeted with a very big yawn by most of our audience. But this is a product of, just handheld contact being around so long and us having to shed some technical debt. So for anyone that understands, data transfers and formats, XML is very old. Okay, it's very old. It's not particularly fast, but this is what all the data transfer, all the sync information is transferred in is XML data format. That's all great, okay, but there's not a whole lot we can do to build on that. So in order for any of the other changes we've got planned in the future, we had to update this to JSON, okay? So this project, not a word of a lie, has been going on since last summer, okay? And we have built changes, we have built huge test environments so that we are able to release a version that is supported with JSON. The performance differences are going to be modest. In some areas we've identified, some areas of the syncing process, we've identified about 25% improvement. But the biggest thing is to build a foundation that is current, that allows us to build more modern coding on it, okay? So why am I telling you all of this? Is because we are, next week, we'll be making the announcement of the 1 month countdown, and we will be making this switch in mid-June. So what is this going to mean to people? Well, after mid-June, anyone that tries to renew a Classic account, and this only applies to Classic, will be prompted to renew the Classic JSON product, okay? They won't be able to renew their old version, but as long as their account's in good standing, they can continue using it. They're not going to be forced to make a change that way. It will involve them deleting their app, installing the new one, and doing a resend all. But this is once over the next year. Okay, so we don't think it's going to be terribly impactful. It is going to be a better improvement, and that's the product that we're going to be moving forward with in terms of improvements. Okay, so it's going to work better, it's going to have a more modern code base, and it allows us to improve it more efficiently. Now, that's the first part. The next part, which also isn't for the faint of heart, is that we are working on a major overhaul of the device applications, okay? It's very, very costly for us to keep a developer for each platform. So we are working over the next 6 months to develop something that is similar, if you guys haven't seen this, similar to CAM, okay? Let's go okay. I think I got that right. Never mind. You guys have all seen CAM before. Or if you haven't, you can check it out later. But with the CAM, it was built in one language that is platform agnostic. And then all we did is we built wrappers in iOS and Android that took less than a day, okay, by the respective developers, because most of the coding was done in a platform agnostic format. We're going to be doing the same kind of thing so that people, it allows us to update the products, obviously, again, back to the single code base, and we'll be able to manage the updates far more efficiently and far more cost effectively, because we're not going to have to keep 2 full-time developers for each platform around. Okay, from a business standpoint, it also creates a lot more comfort as well. Okay. And that is about it. I was going to cover a couple of other items, but I'll leave that for now. I want to respect everyone's time. We're about 3 minutes after. Let me just see, is there any questions? I only sell Classic. I've never used API. Okay, that's fine. You need use Classic, what you need. Okay, for Act Cloud hosted by Act, can handle contact. Okay, for Act for Cloud hosted by Act, can handle contact, work with it now. So Classic is an SDK product. So in order for Classic to work, you do need a local installation of Act. Doesn't matter if it's a master database or RDB or anything like that. So you will need Classic to be installed with desktop version, because it is an SDK connection to the database. That's what the console does, okay? So just be mindful of that. If you want to go with a with web only, then you really have to go with our API product, which doesn't have any software to install, and it makes a direct connection to the hosted database. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I think we are done. I hope this was interesting to you guys. I don't have as much opportunity as I would like to kind of refresh you guys and give you some insights into the directions that we're going, the projects that we're working on, but I really wanted to kind of update you guys and share, some of the projects and some of the recent accomplishments, because we're really, really proud of them. Our team has done a really, really good job. And we're really proud of all the different products that we covered today. I hope you guys will have a chance to learn them, support them. If any of you guys want to start using them internally, please let me know. We'll provide you an NFR, because obviously that's going to make it easier to support with your customers. Okay. So thank you very much for your time, guys. I'll let you get back to your day and make it a good one. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.